Hi everyone, I'm Michelle. Welcome back to my channel. This week I thought we'd do a bit of a tutorial and I wanted to show you and experiment myself with this new hot air brush that I purchased. I learned recently that you can use these hot air brushes on synthetic wigs to do various things, to shape them, to work on permatease. So I definitely want to give this a try. I also will be trimming these bangs. You can see these are very long and absolutely fall into my eyes, so I want to work on that. And we'll look at all of that together. The wig is Seville by Noriko in dark chocolate. So if you like this content, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up below, and we'll get started. Okay, so just to start with, I wanted to let you have a look at Seville before we do any kind of alterations or customizing, because I do think that there are some face shapes that this would probably look really nice on. I just think that for me, this amount of permatease, if I scrunch it a little bit, you can see how much volume is just immediately created. I think this much volume just swallows my face up a bit. I don't think it suits me, but it might suit you. So let's just take a quick look at Seville before we do anything to her. So she has quite a bit of permatease on the top here. Let me try to give you a close-up so you can see. It's pretty visible. And even if you like permatease, I think you might want to work on that a little bit so that it's not so obvious. And then she has these long bangs, and perhaps they left these long intentionally so that you could customize them yourself so that they will work for whatever dimensions you have with your forehead to your hairline. And so we'll absolutely do that. But I think it's an adorable style overall, and the color is pretty. It's very dark, but I like it. So let's take a look from all sides. Here she is from my right. And the back, and the left. A pretty style. I'm very curious to see what she'll look like after I work on her a bit here, especially on the top, flatten some of that permatease, maybe lift the fibers up so that the permatease is not as visible, and then trim the bangs, and we'll see what we can achieve. Okay, let's do some bang trimming. Now, I'm just gonna say I am not a stylist, which you probably already know, but you'll see it's pretty obvious. So I'm going to do my best. I've done a little bit of hair trimming, especially during COVID. I cut my boy's hair, but I have not done a lot of it. So I've watched some videos and I'll share what I learned and we'll try it together. So first, the most important thing, I think, is to go ahead and style the bangs the way you want them in terms of how much of a bend you want or how flat you want. Because if they're not the shape you want and then you add a bend to them later, kind of a curve, then obviously it'll be too short if you've already cut it. So I would style it, heat style it first to get it to, you know, kind of what you like. And I like my bangs not to be touching my forehead completely. I do like a little bit of a bend. So again, here I'm turning that on and can even hold the fibers to the barrel there and letting it cool so that we keep that little bend in the bangs. And we'll do that on both sides. So now we have the shape that we want. Now we absolutely need to make certain that the ear tabs are straight. And if we lift the bangs, that we've got the distance, the 4 fingers. Okay. All right, so that is the distance that I want. Now, what I think I'll do is just trim this center section because I'm having a hard time seeing it in the camera and with the fibers falling into my eyes. So now I'm not pulling out, I'm pulling down, and not too much down because, again, with that little curve we put in there, it'll bounce back. But I'm just gonna trim this center section about to where I would want it to be. and that's going to be my guide. And I'm going to put this on the blockhead and do it that way. I just don't think I can do it looking into the camera. So unfortunately for this portion of the video, the audio was just terrible and I had to remove it. It would have just been too distracting for you. And I thought this was a good section of the video that we could fast forward. And I'll just explain to you what I was talking about basically while I was doing it. We have the center section there of the bangs. That was the guide that I cut while I had it on my head. And I just use that both on the left and the right to decide where to continue trimming the bangs. And I like to just snip small pieces at a time at a 45-degree angle going from both directions so that I'm not creating a blunt cut straight across, just a little bit of a messy bang. And when I come closer to the edges on both sides, I like to leave it a little bit longer on the edges and just create a wispy bang look that way. Okay, I put her back on my head, and actually, I think I like this length. I think for now, I will leave it just like this because it's actually nice to have a little bit of length and it's not getting in my eyes, and I like to have a little bit of forehead showing, so I don't want to go too short. And I can always cut more if I change my mind later. Also, if you prefer your bangs to not be pretty much the same length and you want some more layers and to lighten your bangs a little bit more, there's a good technique. I watched a video by Wigs by Patty's Pearls, and it was very helpful. And what she likes to do, if I'm doing this correctly, it works for me anyway, you just take a small section of the bangs and pull them straight up pretty much at a 90-degree angle. And then if you can see this, the front pieces are shorter than the back pieces, meaning the fibers closer to my forehead are shorter. So if we just pull up and then use those front fibers as a guide and cut straight across, I want you to be able to see that. Then when you release that, you can see it is not so heavy looking. Looks a little more feathery and not all the same length. Maybe we'll just do that with this section too. And be very careful, just do a little bit at a time, because once you cut too much, you can't go back. Again, straight up. Maybe we'll go a little less short on that one and just snip. There we go. So now you have a little bit more of a layered wispy bang instead of that straight across look. Okay, I've had a little more time to think about it and look at the wig, and I just have to say I still feel like this is a lot of volume for me, for my face shape, and the Permatease, which I'm just not that familiar with, is quite visible. I did a previous video where I showed you how to flatten a small bump of Permatease, or I explained it anyway. The wig I used it on didn't actually have Permatease, but I've done that before with toppers where they just had a small bump and the surface, you couldn't really notice the Permatease on the surface of the fibers when you looked at the top. And so it was easy to just flatten it and be done, and it looked really good. This is a little different because there is so much Permatease right at the surface here. I don't think just flattening it would look good. It would just be then flattened and still wouldn't look very natural. So I did a little research, and Taz's Wig Closet was especially helpful for this. And she does a technique, I think she calls it dirtying the part, where we create a part, we try to remove this part line. I'm so familiar with monotops and creating sort of straight looking part lines. But I think that just doesn't work with the Permatease. I think it becomes, those little pieces just stick up and it just makes it too obvious. So we're gonna try that. And I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of create a bit of a zigzag. Usually, you know, you remove the zigzag parting when you have a monotop, but I think just having a little bit more of a messy zigzag parting will help disguise some of that permatease at the surface, so that if someone's looking at you at the top of your head, they won't just immediately see those little fibers sticking up and that permatease look. So I think that I'm liking that. That definitely helps disguise that a little bit. And I think it makes it look more smooth and just natural. So next, I want to try thinning the wig a little bit. Let's maybe start with the bangs. These bangs that I trimmed, I like the shape, I like the length, but they look quite heavy to me, not as wispy as I would like. So we're gonna use some thinning shears. You've seen these. And I don't have a lot of experience with these, but we're gonna give it a try. So the key, of course, with this is that you not thin the fibers at the surface, but that you do it underneath. So we're gonna remove a layer of bang, the top layer, so that those little pieces that we create don't become visible. And we'll clip that back. All right, and now we have this fringe, the underside of the fringe. Now we're gonna take the thinning shears and go ahead and give it a snip. And it's best to go close to the root and cut once. It's kind of stuck, there we go. And then pull it out. I didn't want to pull smoothly, so I just took it out and play with it. Okay, that looks a little finer there. We'll go to the left-hand side here and do the same thing. Go all the way to the root, give it one snip, take it out and remove those fibers. Okay, and especially since I'm new at this, we're gonna do just a little bit at a time and then check and see if we like those results. I definitely think that's looking better. I may do a little bit more of that later, but I definitely feel like that's a little more wispy and a little less heavy on my face. And I also like the way this is looking when I tuck it behind my ears, because I feel like the density is better. Okay, so I made certain that the top was looking the way I wanted to disguise that permatease, and now I want to trim some of this bulk so that I don't feel like I'm being swallowed. So I wanted to make sure that we had the top the way we wanted it first, because once you start trimming, you don't want to create issues with little fibers showing where you're doing the trimming. So we're gonna clip again the top layer to the side, and then I will work at the root right underneath that. So we'll just create a little bit of a section, and I'll go as close to the root as I can, and I'll probably snip it a couple of times. Once, twice. And then we'll pull that hair out. It's a bit of a mess on my floor, I have to say. Okay, so we want to make sure we've got that back where we want it. And let's do the other side. Clip that. And again, create a section to trim. Get all the way to the root. Snip. One more time. Snip. And pull that out. Okay. Before I do any more, I want to double check and make sure that we're not starting to remove too much, because I do think that this style is intended to be a little fluffy and full, but I feel like that's already looking better. Can always do more, play with it, but I like that. I think now it's starting to look more like I'm wearing the wig instead of the wig is wearing me. So I absolutely like that, and maybe we'll do a quick styling option. Let's try a ponytail now that she's thinned out a bit and not too bulky. And I love wearing bangs with a ponytail. It's such a great way to hide wrinkles as we age, and I just feel like it's a soft look. That way you do have a little bit of hair in the front with the bangs, and you can have a nice ponytail and have those fibers off your neck. And I can tell it's thinner because I tried a ponytail before and only had to go around twice, and now I'm having to go around 3 times. All right, let's take a look at that from all sides. My right, the back, and the left. I like that. Okay, so let's summarize. I do think after everything we've done with this wig, I am liking her. I think she's a very pretty style. I thought that from the beginning. I just had to make her my own. I definitely wanted to work on the bangs, and I'm liking those a lot. I have disguised the Permatease with that zigzag parting. I still prefer a mono top, but I would wear this. And then of course we did the trimming of the bangs, which if you're afraid of it, I hope that this will give you a little bit of confidence to do that, because I am absolutely not an expert and it was not hard. And then lastly, if you're going to be wearing wigs that might be a little too bulky for you and you need to thin them, a pair of thinning shears sure is a good investment, good to have around, because that just very discreetly changes the bulk, and you can take a high density wig and turn her into a low density wig and remove bulk just exactly to where you want it to be. So overall, very pleased with this experiment. I hope you enjoyed it and that it was helpful. And if you wouldn't mind giving me a like and subscribe down below, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.